check this out.
We got a great show coming your way today.
Hey, everybody, check it out!
Hello and welcome back to Billy Biketruck's Adventure Radio Show, the show that's about adventure, travel and motorcycles. This is part 2 of episode 2. If you've not heard part 1 yet, see the link in the description or pick it up out of the playlist. It's really cool, loads of enduro stuff in it. In this half of the show, we're talking to Llewellyn Pavey and Charlie Borman, and we're going to be discussing the Dakar Rally and a great new up-and-coming motorcycle movement based in the UK called We Ride London. And we're also going to find out about Charlie Borman's new book, The Long Way Back. Welcome back.
You're listening to Billy Biketruck on Adventure Radio.
The Dakar Rally, one of the biggest sporting events in the world. It's right up there with the Grand National, MotoGP, Grand Prix, the Baja, Wimbledon. You get my drift. And the participants rank as some of the world's top athletes, drivers and riders. But before we crack on with Charlie and Llewellyn, let's just put a bit of flesh on the bones. So, the Dakar. Likely the most dangerous race in the world, particularly for motorbikes, started way back in 1978 as the Paris-Dakar, rallying from Paris to Senegal through North Africa and finishing at the famous Pink Lake in Senegal. For decades, it rallied through North Africa and delivered some of the most incredible adventures, both for participants and for viewers, as it was distributed around the world on scores of TV channels. It also brought money to the very poor countries like Morocco, like Mauritania, like Mali and Senegal. Sadly, in 2008, it was cancelled due to terror threats. This was a disaster, as many people had travelled from all corners of the world to be there ready to race. And remember, some of the privateers will have remortgaged their houses and sold the kids on eBay to do this event. It's not cheap. In 2009, it moved to South America, where it's been ever since. They love it there. They've developed a real passion for it right across South America. The Bolivians in particular, wow, they're crazy for it. They've got monuments built all over the place in honor of it. On top of all that, it's a continent that has money. Argentina is the finance capital of South America, so it's very unlikely to move back to Africa, which I think is a little sad. And many people think it's a real travesty that the Dakar Rally doesn't go to its namesake, Dakar. Some people tried to keep the Dakar Rally in Africa. Hubert Auriel, a famous French Dakar winner from back in the day, headed up a new rally called the Heroes Legend Dakar Rally. This was the true classic Dakar route, starting in Paris and finishing at the Pink Lake in Dakar, Senegal. Hubert Auriel is a national treasure in France. He won the Dakar both on bikes and cars, and he's been the race director multiple times. He's a pretty hardcore dude. In 1987, he crashed out on the penultimate day of the race when he was leading and broke both ankles. And what did he do? He hobbled back onto the bike and finished the stage. Eesh! I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to do the Heroes Dakar Rally a few years ago. I was riding a KTM 525, which was fully race-spec'd by the one and only Patsy Quick. You may remember Patsy Quick from Charlie's Race to Dakar documentary. She was the first British woman to finish the Dakar Rally. She prepared the bike and gave me support right through the whole event. It was probably the most amazing and challenging thing I've ever done in my life. This race has been superseded by another classic style Dakar called the Africa Eco Race. That's a race you guys should all have a look at. My point about Hubert Auriel being a massive star in France sort of brings us to our piece with Charlie Borman. During this year's Dakar, Charlie was given it a good old rant about the lack of media coverage in the UK, particularly in relation to Sam Sunderland, one of only a few British riders who was in fact leading the rally. But who'd have known? Across Europe, the Dakar has massive respect, while here in the UK, well, it appears to have public respect, public support, but not so much from the media. I sat down with Charlie wound him up and let him go. Sitting here with Charlie Borman. Charlie, me and you were quite lucky this last couple of years. We met a really lovely rider, a guy called Toby Price, a couple of years ago when he was in the top 3 in the Dakar Rally, and we spent the day with him and it was fantastic. And little did we know then that he was going to go on to go the following year and win the Dakar Rally. Now, your tweets have been ranting a little bit. They've been ranting about the Dakar Rally. Why?
Well, because I have been really, really frustrated with the British press, and that, you know, we met Toby Price, amazing guy, and then he went on to win the Dakar Rally, and he crashed out this year. And Sam Sunderland yesterday won the Dakar Rally. Now, put this into perspective: the Dakar Rally has been going on since 1976 or 3 or whenever it is, and since then, until Sam, John Deacon won one stage of the Dakar Rally, and Sam Sunderland this year has been leading the Dakar Rally for pretty much most of it, and has just won the Dakar Rally. So we have the first British person to win the Dakar Rally on a motorcycle, which is the hardest. Forget about the cars and the trucks. They're brilliant as well, but, you know, they have co-drivers who navigate for them. You know, they have protection, they have a roll cage around them. A motorcycle is out in the elements, has to navigate and do everything themselves, and for the likes of Sam Sunderland, open the piste, which means they can't follow tracks of other vehicles. They have to make the tracks. So it is so difficult to do it. And then the frustration of last week, I couldn't sleep last week. And I was about 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And on the BBC News comes, the Dakar Rally. I'm thinking, brilliant, they're going to mention Sam Sunderland. It's Carlos Sainz and one of the other car drivers has just swapped positions from first to second. And then I'm going, okay, and Sam Sunderland, nothing. Wow. And you just think, oh my God, they're talking about amazing car drivers who were ex-motorcycle racers in the Dakar.
Cyril Dupre.
Yeah. He's on it at the moment. But no mention of Sam Sunderland, who's leading the race by 20 minutes. And anyway, so I went on to Twitter and had a go.
You've been doing a bit of that. There's been a few, but good whinges.
Yeah,
good rants.
Of course, it's, you know, saying, look, it's brilliant, Sam Sunderland, but it's such a shame that, you know, this guy, you know, on the BBC or any of the others hasn't mentioned it.
But why is it? Why is it? Because
I don't know, because everyone's so obsessed about football and everyone's just, you know, if the newspapers spoke about it and rallied it up a bit and said, actually, we've got a few British hopefuls here this year, and just did a little piece about it, we don't need 11 pages of football. You know, in that 11 pages of football, you could have one column on the Dakar this year. You go to the likes of France and Italy and Spain and Japan and Australia and... No, actually not Australia, because I have a go at them as well, about poor Toby Price. I mean, there was a bit of interest, but, you know, my God, he won the Dakar Rally, you know. And,
only the second time in, I think, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, and to put this into perspective, Sam this was his third attempt. And both times he crashed out through either breaking something or engine problems or something like that. So pretty impressive thing, having only done it a third time and then goes ahead and wins it. But Toby Price, you know, he did it. The first time he ever did it, came second. And then the second time he did it, he won it. And then third time he did it, he crashed out and broke his femur this year on day 3. And just so he knows that I did 2 more days than Toby Price. I'm just saying. But it's just such a shame. And, you know, if you walk down the street, I've walked down the streets in Paris with Hubert Auriel, which is one of the great motorcycle guys. He's won it a few times on bikes and in cars. And you know, you can't walk down the street without people going, oh, mon Dieu, c'est Hubert Auriel, c'est fantastique, and incredible, give me your autograph and photo.
It's like a Beckham phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. And he hasn't raced for years. And young people and everybody, like, I just find it so sad.
It's a message from Charlie Borman to the BBC, to ITV,
to anybody in Britain who likes motorbikes, or not even. It's about being patriotic. It's about supporting your British athletes who are out there. It doesn't matter what sport it is, out there doing unbelievable stuff and not getting. And what was really sad, I watched last night on the last episode on on Eurosport, and he was going, "Yeah, no, it's amazing. I won the race, and maybe someone might mention something back home in Britain." And he looked crestfallen that nobody was talking about it. This unbelievable achievement.
And we met Sam, didn't we? We met Sam in Dubai in the desert.
Yes, actually the same as we met Toby Price
and rubbed off a bit of magic.
And then the next year he won it, and we met Sam.
Who do we need to meet next?
And what happened after we met Sam? He won the Dakar Rally. I'm just saying. But I remember when we saw him in Dubai. Actually, he was out and doing a desert race, and all the big guys were there. Everybody was there, wasn't it? There was Toby, there was Cyril Dupre, there was. I mean, I was sitting in the back of a truck, chatting to Cyril Dupre while he was getting changed. I mean, the guy's a legend. I saw him in his underpants. I'm just saying, But watching Sam go by on the sand, I mean, that guy.
And a young lad, really.
He's young, really, but that guy was, and he showed such maturity. And this year, he was really, he wasn't trying to win every stage. He was just said, look, it's a long race. I just want to be in here, in the mix. I just want to be in the mix, and that's what it's all about. The Dakar Rally is not about winning every stage. It's about being there after 16 days. And what's that phrase you said? In order to win it, first you've got to finish.
Yeah.
So, and the Dakar Rally is all about, what I learned when I did the Dakar Rally, it was all about, this most incredible race in the world. And what I learned was, and what I was told was that, if you get to the start line, you've won. And anything
such
after
an
that,
achievement.
Yeah. And anything after that is a bonus. And I didn't understand it. And now I absolutely get it. And, Toby Price absolutely, day 3 has a little thing, catches a stone, just like I did, without even realising it, and boom, you've broken something.
Yeah, you can be lucky and you can be unlucky.
And you need, in the Dakar, you need a little bit of luck, I think.
Yeah.
And you ask any rider or any car driver or truck driver will say the same. You need just that little bit of luck.
Cheers, Charlie. Well, there you have it. Charlie's rants over the lack of coverage for the Dakar Rally. The first time ever a British rider wins, and yet it's all relatively low-key. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with Charlie? Is 11 pages of football okay? I wonder how many footballers would play on after breaking both ankles. Whew, most of them are carried off for breaking a nail. I had the opportunity to meet up with one of the Paveys, Llewellyn Pavey, son of the 10 times Dakar legend himself, Simon Pavey. Simon and Lel were the first father and son team ever to finish the Dakar Rally on motorcycles. That was in South America, 2015. I asked Llewellyn what he thought about this year's rally as he watched the coverage, and did it bring back all those memories, and what he thought about the rally actually being in South America.
My name's Llewellyn Pavey. In 15, I raced finished Dakar alongside my old man, and we were kind of equal first father and son team to finish the race, really, on a bike. Kind of never really been done before. So more than memories, it just makes me want to go again. It just looked all, there was obviously a few days that were a bit rough this year, but a lot of it just looked super fun, and a lot of great riding and difficult navigation and hard work. I mean, obviously I never went to Africa, but my view on it being in South America is that I think it's really good there because the riding's amazing. It's a really different event. I think it's a bit more maybe of a different kind of adventure to what it was. A little bit less grueling and a little bit more of a race, but South America is an amazing place to ride a motorbike, and I think it's got a really good home there.
Llewellyn Pavey, you'll always be a star in my eyes.
Thanks, Billy. You too.
You're listening to Billy Biketruck on Adventure Radio.
Sadly, we're in the last few minutes of the show, but time enough to hear from the Boorman fellow one more time. This time he's discussing the rise of a new motorcycle lobby group, We Ride London, and also giving us the update from the horse's mouth about his new book due out very soon, Long Way Back. Let's hear it from the man.
I think We Ride London has sort of come about a little bit, partly because emissions are changing on vehicles, and Britain is becoming more aware of their trucks and their cars and the vehicles. And London is coming to a point where they are going to bring in the emissions charge, a little bit like having to pay to drive in central London,
like congestion
like
charge.
a congestion charge. But this will be from the M25 in, and any vehicle that's 2007 and below will be charged £12 a day to ride into London. And we, as motorcyclists, or not as bikers, but just as motorcyclists, because there are plenty of people out there on scooters or bicycles who are just riding into London, just everyday people, doctors, nurses, policemen, firemen, people who work in the city, councillors, people who work for councils, all use motorbikes. 130,000 people ride their bikes to work and back every day. And we feel that we have been slightly forgotten a little bit, unlike bicycles. Bicycles have had a massive movement. £900 million has been spent on bicycles and safety for them so that they can have more protection, which is absolutely right. But motorcycles have been slightly forgotten about. So, for instance, last year there were 3 deaths, 900 million spent. On motorcycles there were, I think, 36 deaths and not even £1 million spent on motorcycle safety.
So there's a discrepancy between the money and, if you like, the thought that's gone into bicycle life in London.
Well, they've had a great campaign about it, and they've really lobbied very well, and us motorcyclists haven't. And so it's partly because we feel that we're part of the solution when it comes to congestion and pollution and all those kind of things. So we're very much opposed to the idea of having to pay to ride through London. And then we want more recognition and more help for motorcycles to be safe, i.e. for campaigns so that drivers, car drivers, truck drivers, bus drivers are more aware of motorcyclists. At the moment in certain parts of London it's very difficult to filter to the front of the queue.
And the whole bus lane thing.
And the whole bus lane thing is crazy because, in some boroughs you can, some you can't, so you're constantly riding to see whether you can or can't. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, a cyclist, and not to take anything away from cyclists, but a cyclist has no accountability. So a motorcyclist is trained, wears safety gear, wears a helmet, has a license plate and is insured and pays tax to be on the road. But they don't take up barely any space on the road. So if you take, for instance, me going from my house to my restaurant up in Shoreditch, the bike shed, in a car it's an hour and 20 minutes to get up there. On a motorcycle, it's less than 25 minutes.
Wow! And
you're constantly moving straight to the queue.
No fuel.
No fuel, really. Your impression on the actual road surface is minimal. The wear and tear of London is greatly reduced. So we're saying that we are part of the solution, and we don't feel that we are represented well enough for a number of reasons, not just the congestion charge or the admissions charge. We feel that we should be highlighted rather than sort of ignored and forgotten.
Yeah. And tell me, what can we do, Charlie? We're listening to this now saying, wow, we ride London. Where is it? Where can they get involved and what can we do? And also, a point that you've mentioned to me a few times is that if we don't get it right in London, we probably won't get it right in Liverpool, in Newcastle, in Manchester.
Absolutely. What you've got to remember is this is not a London-centric issue. At the moment it is. I swear to you, if this admissions charge works, I guarantee you it's coming to a city near you. It's very important that we get this right in London, and that way we can set a precedent. But it's not just about emissions. It's about safety. It's about being recognised. It's about, when my 2 children learnt to drive, there was nothing about looking out for cyclists or motorcyclists. When you take your test, it's drummed into you to look in your mirrors, to hold your steering wheel in the right way, to look left, to look right, to look before you indicate. All these things are drummed into you. And if you changed the way people are taught by drumming it into people that there are motorcyclists and bicycles on the road, people will be much more aware of it. You drive in Europe, and people are absolutely more aware of motorcyclists and cyclists. It's partly because most people have ridden a moped but they are aware of it. And so it's not just about protecting ourselves, it's about looking at how people are taught. And it's always about, it always boils down at the end about education.
Okay, what can we do?
Right, so what we can do is, it's very easy. You go to weridelondon.com and have a look. What we would love, and what we're trying to do, is we're on Instagram as well and Twitter, but what we want you to do is take a photo of you in your work clothes, holding your helmet and showing us that we ride London. and then hashtagging We Ride London, and then we'll pick it up and we'll put it onto the website. And we just want hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to do that. And nothing to do with putting your helmet on and your black visor or anything like that. It's just holding your helmet in your workplace and saying, We Ride London.
We're real people.
Yeah, real people.
We're not just bikers.
No, we are motorcyclists, and we are just using them to go to work. Motorbikes and mopeds and scooters. It's all the same to us.
What about a biography? What about the life of Charlie Borman?
The biography. I've done lots of books, but the books have always been, diary based, really. So about what happened, from when I started, and I've always spoken a bit about my childhood and stuff. But since I just had this big accident last February where I broke both my legs, and quite badly, I was lying in hospital for quite a long time, and then in a wheelchair for quite a long time. And my agent, actually, Robert Kirby, who's the nicest man you can possibly imagine, he said, "Look, Charlie, instead of just sitting there, why don't you have a think about your childhood and your reflection, a biography, and a biography sort of loosely based on the bikes that you've owned over the years." And I thought, God, that's okay, give it a go. It's called Long Way Back. I know, original, isn't it? But it really is. And when I spoke to my father about it, John Boorman, who's written books and made the most wonderful movies over his whole career, he said, "Look, why don't you start it by sitting on the floor on the roadside, just having had your crash?"
So it starts at the crash.
Yeah, it starts at the
and
crash.
Sort of
So
moves
it
backwards.
sort of sits there thinking. You sit there thinking, "Christ, what just happened?
How did I get here?
How did I get here?" Yeah, basically, and looking down at your leg that's flopping all over the place, and
wow.
Oh my God! And then I'd been truly British. I spent most of my time apologising to everybody, going, "I'm really terribly sorry, but just give me 20 minutes and I'll be all right." And they're all looking at me going, "I don't think so, Charlie." I remember speaking to you, Billy, and my wife, and we were, you were communicating to my wife about it, and said, "I think he's just broken his leg." And then, I don't know, it looks like he might have broken his other ankle. And then it was, it's really not that good. But
you're in good recovery now.
Yeah, so good recovery.
Back on a bike.
Yeah, booked out is later on this year, so around April time, and then I'll be off to Africa to do a couple of motorcycle tours that we do in Africa that you and I do together.
Cool.
And they all started about by people saying, "Oh, I'd love to ride with you in Africa, Charlie," and I'd love to introduce people to Africa and to tell people that actually, Africa's not that bad. It's actually quite a nice place.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of people pick it up.
Much safer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people have a tendency to be a bit negative. And people focus on an incident that happened and then kind of sort of go, "Oh, well, that's all of Africa." And then towards the end of this year, doing a speaking tour. So sort of an evening with Charlie, where we'd be talking about a lot of this stuff that we're talking about now, but in much more detail.
That brings us to the end of Billy Biketruck's Adventure Radio Show. Big thanks to Chris Hockey, Dr. Shock's Enduro Bootcamp, and the team of instructors, Llewellyn Pavey from The Paveys, and of course, the man himself, Charlie Borman. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave comments and do us a favour and subscribe to my channel so I can make more shows. Oh yeah, follow me on Twitter @Biketruck. Thanks again.